Welcome. Tonight, the ferry drifts toward a quiet kitchen, built on wooden platforms above the open sea. There is nothing you need to follow closely. No tension, no urgency. Only steady heat, slow air, and water moving beneath the boards. Settle in now, and we will drift a little closer. The ferry continues its slow passage across the night water. Long swells lift the hull, then lower it again without sound. The air feels cool and even against your face. Nothing sharp within it, nothing unsettled. The deck beneath you shifts once with the tide, a soft adjustment. Then stillness returns. Ahead, a quiet glow rests close to the horizon, contained, measured. The ferry holds its steady direction. No correction needed, no haste. The light in the distance remains constant, neither widening nor fading, and the dark water between you and it stretches calm and uninterrupted. As the distance narrows, the settlement separates from the dark. Wide wooden platforms floating level with the tide. Posts descending into the water below. Walkways linking one structure to the next in narrow, deliberate lines. Several windows hold a faint interior glow, dimmed from within, light softened by thin curtains and wooden frames. Somewhere deeper in the village, a door closes softly. Not abrupt, just a final movement before rest. The village is quiet at this hour, resting above the tide in a steady, lived-in calm. Near the outer edge, one structure carries more warmth than the others. Its side open toward the sea air, light gathered beneath a low roof. Above it, a pale column rises. Steam. It lifts in gentle intervals, curling upward before thinning into the cooler night, then gathering again as more warmth escapes below. The ferry keeps its pace. The air changes gradually, cool across the open water, then carrying a trace of heat as you draw nearer. The steam thickens briefly where warm air meets the night, edges softening, light bending through vapor before clearing again. The outer dock extends into clearer view. Broad planks laid lengthwise, their grain faint beneath the gathered glow. Water moves quietly between the support posts, reflections stretching and folding with each small swell. The kitchen platform stands slightly raised from the dock, simple beams supporting a low roof, open along one side to the sea. Within, a wide preparation table holds the center of the warmth. Metal rims faintly bright, Wood darkens slightly where heat has lingered. Steam rises from a large pot set near the middle. It releases in steady pulses. A swell of vapor, then a pause, then another lift. The vapor rolls upward toward the beams, moisture gathering faintly along the underside before dispersing. Tiny droplets cling briefly to the grain of the timber, then vanish as the warmth steadies the air again. A wooden spoon rests angled inside a shallow bowl nearby, its handle warmed along one edge, steam brushing past it in thin currents. A folded cloth hangs from a peg near the doorway, the lower edge slightly damp from the air. A faint crease running through its center from careful folding. The scent becomes clearer as the ferry nears. Warm grain, milk heated slowly, butter softening at the edges, a trace of yeast resting in the air. Not strong, just enough to travel across the short space between dock and hull. The ferry continues forward without altering its rhythm. Light brushes the rail in a narrow band, then recedes toward the stern. The planks of the dock align beside the hull, level with the deck, posts evenly spaced in patient sequence. Steam drifts outward now, as well as upward. Cool air slides inward from the water's surface. Warm air rises from the pot. They meet midway and fold gently together. A thin line of condensation forms along the pot's metal rim, beads gathering slowly before sliding back into the heat. The preparation table shows shallow knife marks crossing its surface, lines running in different directions, smoothed over years of steady use. The boards nearest the stove carry a deeper tone, warmed repeatedly, drying quickly after each wash. Near the far wall, a stack of clean bowls rests upside down, their undersides catching a faint crescent of light, still warm from earlier use. Steam thickens once more in a steady lift. It catches the light from below, turning pale before dissolving into night. Behind the kitchen platform, the other structures remain in softer glow. A few windows dimmed from within, light resting quietly against their frames. The ferry closes the remaining distance slowly. Water narrows between hull and dock, reflections stretching and folding beneath both. Inside the kitchen, warmth continues its patient rhythm. Steam rising, cooling, rising again, and the ferry drifts nearer to the outer dock. Water narrows between wood and wood, then widens again as the tide settles. The dock runs parallel to the rail now, planks level with the deck, edges worn smooth along their corners. A thick mooring post stands near the outer edge, its surface rounded from years of handling. The grain darkened where rope has rested. The ferry eases closer without touching at first, hovering just beside the dock. Steam drifts across the narrow space between vessel and platform. Warm air passing briefly over the cooler rail. You reach for the coiled line near the stern. The rope feels dry but softened with use. Fibers compact beneath your fingers. With an easy motion, you guide the line around the post. One loop, then another. There is no pull against it, only enough tension to hold the ferry near. The knot settles without strain, balanced, unforced. The hull shifts a fraction closer to the dock, not touching fully, just reducing the ribbon of water between them. The tide lifts once more beneath both structures, then lowers in the same measure. You wait a moment, allowing the motion to steady. Steam continues to rise from the kitchen platform, its edges soft in the lantern glow. A faint clink comes from within the structure. Porcelain settling against wood. A small adjustment, then stillness. You step toward the edge of the ferry, testing the distance between deck and dock. The boards align evenly enough to cross without effort, their surfaces nearly level. One foot steps onto the platform. The wood holds firm beneath your weight. The ferry adjusts slightly behind you, then returns to its slow, shared rhythm with the tide. You bring the second foot across, now fully on the dock. The air here carries more warmth than the open water. Not heavy, just layered. The rope rests against the mooring post in quiet loops, neither tightening nor slackening beyond balance. Water moves gently between the dock's supporting posts, dark currents sliding beneath the planks. Steam drifts past your shoulder as you walk toward the kitchen platform, moisture cooling slightly as it meets the night air. The boards nearest the open doorway feel subtly warmer underfoot, heat rising faintly from below. Light gathers along the threshold, spilling outward in a soft band before fading into the darker dock. Inside, the large pot continues its steady release of vapor. A gentle lift, a pause, then another. A stack of bowls rests inverted near the back wall, their rims catching thin crescents of light. The wooden spoon remains angled within its bowl, handle glistening slightly where steam has brushed it. A folded apron hangs beside the doorway, fabric edges still holding the warmth of the room. You pause just outside the threshold, allowing your breathing to match the rhythm within. The ferry remains secured behind you, hull rising and lowering in patient repetition. No part of the dock shifts beyond what the tide requires. Everything moving together in quiet agreement. The village continues to rest around you, not silent, just settled for the night. Steam rises once more in a steady column, warmth lifting, cooling, then lifting again. You step fully into the kitchen platform. The air is layered here, cool near the floorboards, warmer at waist height, warmest beneath the low beams. Steam rises steadily from the pot at the center of the table. Not urgent, not forceful, just constant. The lid rests slightly askew, allowing vapor to escape in measured intervals. Each release lifts gently toward the beams, softening their edges before thinning into the darker air above. You move closer to the preparation table, your hand resting lightly against its surface. The wood holds residual warmth, not hot, just comfortably heated from hours of steady use. A shallow tray sits beside the pot, dough portions arranged in even spacing, their surfaces lightly dusted with flour. A faint sheen forms along their tops, where warmth meets cooler air, moisture gathering, then settling again. You lift the wooden spoon from its bowl, the handle smooth beneath your fingers, steam curling loosely around your wrist. The spoon moves slowly through the pot, a gentle circular motion. No splashing, only quiet resistance. Liquid shifts beneath the surface, thick but not heavy, moving in patient waves that settle quickly after each turn. You draw the spoon toward the edge of the pot, allowing excess to fall back in a thin ribbon. The surface smooths again almost immediately, steam continuing its steady rise. A small ceramic jar rests near the far corner of the table, its lid slightly tilted, a trace of salt gathered along the rim. You pinch a small amount between your fingers, sprinkling it gradually into the warmth below. The grains disappear without sound, dissolving into the mixture as if absorbed by it. A folded cloth lies near the edge of the table. You lift it and wipe the rim of the pot, removing a faint ring of condensation. The cloth darkens slightly where moisture touches it, then lightens again as the warmth dries the surface. Near the back wall, a stack of clean bowls rests inverted, their undersides catching the softest crescent of light. You turn one upright, placing it near the tray of dough. The bowl holds a trace of retained heat, not from flame, from air that has lingered beneath the beams. Steam continues to rise in slow intervals, a familiar rhythm now. Lift, thin, lift again. The boards beneath your feet respond faintly to the tide below. A slow, shared motion, barely noticeable unless you pause to feel it. You reach for one portion of dough, lifting it gently, turning it once between your palms. The surface is smooth, soft, holding its shape without collapsing. You lower it into the waiting bowl, adjusting its position slightly. Another portion follows, then another. Each moved without hurry, each placed with the same measured care. The scent in the room deepens gradually. Warm grain, milk heated slowly, a faint sweetness rising with the steam. Outside the open doorway, cooler air slides inward along the floorboards, balancing the warmth gathered above. The spoon returns to its bowl, handle angled once more toward the edge of the table. You pause beside the pot, allowing your breathing to match the rhythm of the rising vapor. Steam passes your shoulder in a soft current, curling upward before thinning near the beams. A small sound comes from within the pot as liquid settles against the sides. Not a boil, just a quiet adjustment within the warmth. Condensation gathers along the underside of the lid, droplets forming slowly, then falling back into the mixture below. The preparation table remains orderly, nothing scattered, nothing rushed. Jar, cloth, tray, bowl, each resting where it belongs. The rhythm of the kitchen continues without change. Steam rising, liquid settling, boards shifting gently with the tide. And you remain within it, unhurried, steady. Steam continues to rise behind you, its rhythm unchanged as you move toward the open edge of the platform. The floorboards feel slightly cooler nearer the doorway, air from the water sliding inward at angle height. You rest a hand briefly against one of the supporting beams. The timber holds a trace of warmth along its inner face, cooler along the side exposed to night air. Moisture gathers faintly where steam has brushed the wood, darkening the grain in thin, vertical lines that fade as they descend. You step onto the outer section of the dock. The light behind you softens as distance increases. Here the boards carry less heat, their surfaces dry and even beneath your steps. A narrow rack stands near the edge of the platform, several loaves resting upon it to cool. Their crusts deep in tone, small cracks forming where steam once pressed outward. You pause beside the rack, feeling the faint warmth still rising from the bread, not visible, but present. The scent shifts slightly. Less milk now, more toasted grain, edges settling into stillness. You turn one loaf carefully, rotating it a fraction so air reaches the underside. The rack creaks softly in response, then steadies again. Beyond the rack, a low railing marks the dock's edge, wood smoothed by years of passing hands. You rest your palm along it, the surface cool compared to the kitchen interior, faintly damp from the sea air. Below, water moves between the support posts, dark currents folding around broken reflections of light. A thin line of foam gathers briefly against one post, then dissolves as the tide shifts direction. You lean slightly over the railing, watching the water respond to the platforms above. The kitchen glow stretches across the surface in uneven shapes, then reforms as the water smooths. From a nearby platform, a window remains faintly lit behind drawn fabric. The light within softer now than before, lowered for the night. A shadow crosses it once, unhurried, then disappears from view. You step back from the railing, walking along the narrow boards that connect the kitchen to the next structure. The walkway bends around a thicker corner post, its base reinforced with additional timber. As you pass beneath the eaves, a small drop of condensed moisture falls from the roofline, landing softly against the boards. Another follows after a moment. Not rain, just collected steam releasing itself slowly. You pause beneath the overhang, listening to the faint rhythm of droplets forming and falling. Inside the adjacent alcove, shelves hold folded linens and stacked jars, their surfaces orderly and undisturbed. A narrow bench rests along one wall, its seat polished smooth from long use. You sit briefly, testing the balance of the platform beneath you. The tide lifts everything together, then lowers it again in one shared motion. The steam from the kitchen drifts this far only faintly now, more suggestion than presence. You stand again, returning toward the warmer air near the open doorway. The loaves on the rack have cooled further in your absence, their crusts firm, their surfaces quiet. You brush a light scatter of flour from the boards with your palm, the powder lifting briefly before settling again. Somewhere deeper within the village, a final lantern is lowered slightly, its glow softening, not extinguished, just reduced. The steam within the kitchen rises once more in steady sequence. Lift, thin, lift again. You return to stand just outside the doorway, balanced between cooler dock air and the warmth inside. The boards beneath you respond faintly to the tide, a motion so gradual it almost feels imagined. The village remains quiet but inhabited, windows dim, doors secured, air settling. The kitchen continues its patient rhythm behind you, heat gathering, cooling, gathering again. You remain just outside the kitchen doorway, neither fully inside nor fully out on the dock. Warmth rests along one side of your face, cooler air along the other. Steam continues its patient rise behind you, not demanding attention, simply present. You lower yourself onto the narrow bench near the wall, the wood firm beneath you, balanced above the tide. The boards respond faintly to the movement, then return to their slow, shared motion. Your hands rest loosely in your lap, palms open, fingers relaxed. Breathing steadies without effort. In, out. The warmth from the kitchen settles gently across your shoulders. Not heavy, just steady. A faint current of cooler air passes at ankle height, sliding inward from the water's surface. The two temperatures meet without conflict, layering quietly around you. Steam rises again from the pot, a familiar lift, a finning, then another lift. Condensation forms along the underside of the beams, small droplets gathering slowly, holding their shape. One releases and falls softly back toward the table below, barely audible. The loaves on the rack near the doorway rest undisturbed, crusts firm now, heat nearly gone. Their scent lingers in the air, less pronounced than before, settled into the wood around them. Water moves beneath the platform in long, even shifts, not abrupt, not irregular. Each slow lift of the tide carries the entire settlement upward together, then lowers it again in the same measured rhythm. From a nearby window, the faint glow dims slightly further, a curtain drawn more tightly across the light. You remain seated. There is nothing more to prepare, nothing more to adjust. Steam continues its steady pattern behind you, warmth rising, cooling near the beams, rising again. The bench beneath you holds the heat of earlier hours, gradually releasing it into the night air. Your breathing aligns with the kitchen's rhythm. Lift, settle. The dock rail beyond the doorway rests in partial shadow, its surface catching only a thin line of light. Beyond that, water stretches quietly between the posts, dark but gently moving. No voices carry across the platforms, only the faint natural sounds of wood and tide. The warmth along your shoulders begins to soften, becoming less noticeable. The cooler air no longer feels separate. It blends easily with the heat that remains. Steam lifts once more, slower now, less defined. You let your gaze rest somewhere between the pot and the doorway, not fixed on anything in particular. The bench creaks faintly as the tide shifts beneath it, then grows still again. Nothing requires attention. Nothing asks to be finished. The kitchen holds its warmth. The village holds its quiet. And you remain seated in the space between them. Steam rises once more from the pot inside, thinner now, less defined. It lifts toward the beams in a pale ribbon, then loosens, then fades. The lid remains settled against the rim, no longer shifting, only allowing the smallest breath of vapor to escape. Your hands rest loosely against the bench, fingers relaxed, palms open. The wood beneath you feels steady, warmed earlier in the evening, now gradually releasing that heat into the air. The tide lifts the platforms together: kitchen, walkway, dock, ferry, all rising in the same slow motion, then lowering again. No difference in pace, no unevenness. The rope at the mooring post remains balanced, curving gently where it meets the wood, neither tightening nor slackening beyond what the tide requires. The ferry rests close beside the dock, hull brushing water in faint, softened sounds. Not repetitive, not irregular, just part of the motion below. Inside the kitchen, the loaves on the rack have cooled completely now, their warmth absorbed into beams and boards. The scent lingers faintly in the air, not rising anymore, just present within the wood. A final bead of condensation forms along the underside of a beam, holding there longer than the others did, then releasing, falling without sound. The steam from the pot becomes almost invisible, only a suggestion where light passes through air. Beyond the kitchen platform, the settlement rests in low, steady light. Several windows remain dimmed from within. Others have darkened fully. Curtains hang motionless. Doors remain closed but not barred. Walkways lie quiet between structures. Somewhere farther along the dock, a lantern is lowered slightly more, its circle of light narrowing. Then it holds there, reduced, still. The glow from the kitchen reaches only part way along the boards, fading gently before it meets the darker stretch of walkway beyond. Above, the night remains wide and even. No cloud crossing, no shift in brightness. You let your breathing slow further. In, out. The difference between warm air and cool air becomes less noticeable, both resting evenly against your skin. The bench beneath you creaks once as the tide shifts again, then steadies into stillness. Water continues its long, gradual motion below the platforms, moving around the posts, smoothing itself after each small rise. The ferry answers with a faint sound against the waterline, soft, almost absorbed before it reaches your ears. You remain seated. There is no need to stand, no need to return to the cabin. The kitchen holds its remaining warmth. The dock holds its quiet. The ferry holds its place beside the post. The platforms rise once more together, then settle. Light rests beneath the beams. Water shifts beneath the posts. Air remains steady above them all. Nothing asks to begin. Nothing waits to end. The windows dim quietly along the walkway. The lanterns soften where they hang. The kitchen rests. The ferry rests. The platforms rest between lift and fall. And the village rests together above the slow tide.